Welcome to WhiskyCast, cask strength conversation featuring news and interviews from the world of whiskey. I'm Mark Gillespie. This is episode number 1009 for June 18th, 2023. Coming up in a few minutes.
There's a sense of adventure that I'm going to miss, but that's going to be quickly replaced by kind of a different sense of adventure, and I think that's, for me, going forward, just on a personal level of not knowing where I'm going, is kind of fun.
Westland Distillery co-founder Matt Hofmann is stepping down at the end of this month after 13-plus years. He's been a leader in the American single malt movement and created some great whiskeys along the way. I'll talk with Matt and his successor as head distiller, distillery manager Tyler Pederson, later on WhiskyCast In-Depth. We'll also have tasting notes for the latest Westland release, this year's batch of Colere, in the What I'm Tasting This Week department. We'll also have our community segment, Behind the Label, and more. The news is next on this week's WhiskyCast.
The new Dewar's 19-year-old Champions Edition has been released, and it's a masterpiece that honors the 123rd U.S. Open in a special way. More about that later.
And now, a message from Robin Redbreast.
You know, dads aren't the best at dropping hints, so I'll do it on their behalf. Get him Redbreast, the world's most awarded single pot still Irish whiskey. Hint, hint.
Happy Father's Day from Redbreast, proud sponsor of WhiskyCast.
Let's get started with the week's news. It's brought to you by the Dalmore. Scotland's controversial deposit return scheme is most likely dead after the UK government in London ordered glass bottles to be excluded from the program. At present, it's now been delayed until at least October of 2025. And the company that was named to implement the scheme could itself be on life support. We heard about Circularity Scotland last month in our interview with Blair Bowman. The company sent home all of its employees on June 8th, and the Daily Record reports that Circularity wants to mothball itself until October 2025. Otherwise, it may have to go into administration. We're now getting more details on White & Mackay's expansion plans for the Dalmore, after reporting last month that the company plans to invest $160 million to upgrade its distilleries around Scotland. There's a new duplicate stillhouse being built at the distillery that's scheduled to open in August of next year, according to the drinks business. The project will also include a new visitor center to open later next year. Americans are drinking alcohol in increasing levels, according to a new study from the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. The average American consumed 2.51 gallons of ethanol in 2021, compared to the low mark reached in 1995 at 2.15 gallons. That covers only the alcohol content, not the water or other ingredients in alcoholic beverages. The all-time peak was in 1980, when the average American drank 2.8 gallons of alcohol. From the sports world, Bill Foley's Vegas Golden Knights won the NHL's Stanley Cup this week, and Foley's wine business is expanding into whiskey. Foley Family Wines has acquired the closed Bentley Heritage Estate Distillery in Minden, Nevada, and will revive the facility to make American single malt and other spirits. Also in sports, NASCAR and booze have a shared history, with the early days of stock car racing being dominated by moonshiners with their souped-up cars. This coming weekend, Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery in Nashville will be sponsoring an Xfinity Series car as NASCAR races at Nashville Superspeedway. The number 07 car is driven by Stephen Parsons. New whiskeys announced this week. Woodford Reserve has unveiled a new bottled-in-bond wheat whiskey as part of its distillery series. It's available at the distillery and selected Kentucky retailers for $59.99 a bottle while supplies last. Heaven Hill is added to its Square Six line of whiskeys distilled in the micro distillery at the Evan Williams Bourbon Experience in downtown Louisville. It's a wheated bourbon blended from 2 different mash bills and will be available at the Evan Williams Bourbon Experience and select Kentucky retailers for $89.99 a bottle. Ireland's Clonakilty Distillery and Texas's Garrison Brothers have teamed up on a new Irish single malt. The 7-year-old whiskey was finished in Garrison's whiskey barrels and will be available exclusively at Texas retailers with a recommended retail price of $69.99 a bottle. Finally, what may well be one of the world's most remote distilleries has started production. The Fair Isles Distillery is located in the Faroe Islands in the North Atlantic Ocean. The distillery is likely to become known for its unique maturation style. Instead of closed warehouses, the distillery will use the traditional drying houses used by Faroe Islanders for generations to dry lamb and fish. The goal is to produce 600 barrels of whiskey this year while making gin, vodka, and aquavit on a separate still. You can keep up on the latest whiskey news all week long at WhiskyCast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app. The news is brought to you by the Dalmore.
Hello, Richard Pederson here, Master Distiller, Master Blender for the Dalmore. You know, whenever the team and I are in the world sharing our exceptional single malt, we like to keep in touch with Mark Gillespie and the latest news from WhiskyCast.
Time now to look at upcoming whiskey events going on around the world. Our calendar is brought to you by Writer's Tears. Louisville's Fraser History Museum hosts a Michter's Speakeasy Party this Thursday night. Whiskey X Denver is on Friday night, and the Erin Malt and Music Festival starts on Friday and runs through the weekend in Lacranza, Scotland. The Whiskey Show takes place in Canberra, Australia this coming Saturday, along with the Waterford Distillery Growers Gathering Festival in Waterford, Ireland, and the Stoke-on-Trent Whiskey Festival in Stoke, England. Tasmania's Cowlington Mill Distillery in Australia has a Dark Secret release and dinner on June 30th, and the National Whiskey Festival is coming up on July 1st in Inverness, Scotland. If you're organizing a whiskey event, let us know about it. We'll be glad to add it to the events calendar at WhiskyCast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app. The calendar is brought to you by Writer's Tears.
Writer's Tears Copper Pot, an 18th century style of premium Irish whiskey, blended from single pot still and single malt. Like yourself, it's one of life's treasured rarities, and what's rare is wonderful. Writer's Tears Copper Pot.
And now, a message from Robin Redbreast.
A pair of socks, a book, some suspect ties, a compact toolkit. Oh, another book. And a shaving kit. Actually, I could do with that. But anyway, sometimes you've got to take things into your own hands. Go on, treat yourself.
Happy Father's Day from Redbreast, proud sponsor of WhiskyCast.
WhiskyCast In-Depth is brought to you by Mortlach and the Classic Malts lineup. Seattle's Westland Distillery has been at the forefront of the American single malt movement ever since it opened its doors in 2010. Now the distillery is about to lose a major link to its history. Co-founder, managing director, and head distiller Matt Hofmann is stepping down at the end of the month, with no specific plans for his future. Matt oversaw the distillery's sale to Remy Cointreau in 2016 and stayed on as managing director while continuing to oversee production. Over the years, he's gradually stepped back from his production responsibilities and turned much of that over to Tyler Pederson, who now succeeds Matt as production manager and head distiller. I talked with both of them this week on a Zoom call. Matt, tell me why you decided to step aside at this time. You've been involved with Westland since day one.
Yeah, well, that's really kind of it, Mark, is that I have been involved since day one. That was, formally 2010. There was work that happened prior to that. It's 2023 now. And we've gotten to a point where a lot of, for me, the major objectives that we were looking for when we started the business, not just launching the company and creating American single malt, but a lot of the work that we've been doing in agriculture and local peat and Gary Oak, all those projects now are kind of out there and they're rolling. And for me, I've been kind of looking at this and going, okay, this is a great inflection point in my life. Westland is all I've really known. in many ways in my kind of adult working life. And so I just kind of wanted to give myself the opportunity to take a break. I think that that's important, and look around and, figure out what's next for Matt Hofmann, the person, not Matt Hofmann, the person who's attached to Westland. And that's been, that has defined my life, and it's been great. It's been wonderful. I'm so thankful. I'm so fortunate for that experience. But the fact that the way that I look at even myself is intertwined with Westland is something that I'm interested to see if I unravel that, what will happen.
What do you think you're going to do immediately?
That's a great question, Mark. I think it'll be the summer, so I'd like to think that I'd take some time to clear my head and, hike. I think that's the exercise here for me personally, especially in the short term, is just get out and put some distance between myself and all the stuff that we have done, which again, I'm very thankful for, but the ability to just turn my brain off and see what happens will be great. So I'm not looking to jump into anything new right away. Even if there is something that's exciting, and there's always ideas that bubble up that are exciting, but I think just the ability to slow down, that's the first objective.
Are you happy with what you've accomplished at Westland?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm thrilled. As I said, I'm so lucky. I'm so fortunate. I'm so fortunate to have had amazing people, supporting, Westland and talk about Westland. Mark, you've been great over the years talking about Westland. I mean, all of our fans around the world, our team, is amazing, including Tyler, who's joining us here today. We've accomplished so much, and it's literally, for me, it's a dream come true. The ability to do this. This was my baby. This is a dream that I had, the ability to make that happen. So, and we've accomplished so many things that are wildly beyond what I could have even imagined. And I'm just continually in awe by that. And as I said, I'm so thankful, so grateful for that. And in many ways, that's kind of what gives me the ability to say, okay, I'm okay with stepping away because we have done so much, and the rest of the team that's still here are doing an amazing job, and they're going to continue to do an amazing job going forward. So I know it's going to be in great hands too.
What are you most proud of?
Proud of a lot of things. We've accomplished a lot. I think, what we've done in terms of the category, just, starting from the beginnings of founding the commission, getting that whole idea together, not just the short term, but the long term, that's going to be very consequential. That's a big idea. That's going to shape a lot of things going forward. But in addition to that, a lot of the work that we've done in terms of sustainability, the work that we've done in terms of connecting whiskey back to agriculture, really representing my home. I'm from here in the greater Seattle area, the Pacific Northwest, and to be able to bottle that up, to take this place that I love and share it with people all over the world and have them be truly excited and something that they can taste. This is something that's representative of the place I come from, and they're thrilled to experience it. That gets me it gives me goosebumps just now talking about it. I'm going to miss that part of it. But again, I know it's going to be in great hands.
Tyler, let's talk about those great hands. What's your background?
I came from a restaurant family. They owned several restaurants in the area growing up. And so food and beverage has always been kind of in my orbit and in my trajectory, more or less. I've worked front and back of the house in restaurants and in hospitality, and a little bit of sales and marketing in the whiskey industry before linking up with Westland. And came to this really looking to get hands-on onto the production side. So I started with them in 2010 as the mashman, making the mash every day.
So you've been there since the beginning almost as well, right?
Yeah. Since just a few months right before we opened to the public, I joined.
What does it mean to you to take over as head distiller now?
There's certainly a gravity to to be filled that I think the whiskey world is going to be feeling when Matt leaves the helm. But at the same time, it's exciting. There's a lot of opportunity, and I've been putting whiskey away for 10 years now into the rack houses, and I'm excited to look at the next chapter at sharing those stories, sharing that spirit, and getting it out there. And and continuing the hard work that we're doing. So it's a moment of, opportunity, just like the rest of what we do here. It's always looking ahead and looking at new challenges and new opportunities and figuring out ways to, again, share that story of what we're doing here. So, just another chapter. But it's sad to see Matt go. He's certainly been a great influence to me as a whiskey maker and us as an industry as a whole. So we owe him a lot of credit.
Mark, if I may, I'm going to hype up Tyler here a little bit more, because the reality is that, well, I've been in a form of kind of directing production for a long time. I've been out of the thick of it for years. I've managed the whole business as managing director. And so there are, people like Tyler. I mean, Tyler's been our distillery manager for years, and he's been involved for a really long time. And it's not like this is a new thing that Tyler's stepping into, or our master blender, Shane Armstrong, or other people. They're already doing the work, so in many ways, this is great that they're just going to be seen a lot more. They're going to get a lot more of the credit that they deserve.
How did you pick the original team, Matt?
It was really challenging in the early days, Mark. Nobody knows how to distill, really, so in the early days, you kind of look for somebody who has intellectual curiosity. I think that's one of the main things. It's one of the things that drives Westland quite a bit is, you may not know how to distill. In fact, most of the people that we hired didn't. Tyler is one of the few people who had a bit of a background in the spirits industry before we started, working with him. But a lot of other people didn't. And it's almost impossible if you are from the Seattle area. How could you? We were one of the first distilleries in this area. So we're just looking for people who are intellectually curious, who wanted to learn more, and who wanted to be really passionate about making whiskey. And that, coupled with, working hard, will get you a really long ways.
Tyler, what do you see going forward for Westland?
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of excitement and opportunity with us being on the cusp of ratification for the new American single malt category. There's going to be a huge wave of new entrants into the market, as we're already seeing that. It's getting a lot of support from distillers big and small. And we've been at the forefront of that, helping shape that category, helping to kind of show others what's possible. In the world of whiskey, it's like a mountain of different players, and we decided not to try and scale it, but to create a glacial valley down the North Face. The world of single malt, no less, is the most sturdy and has the most features, and has the biggest history to it. And we decided to help create a place, not just for ourselves, but for others to kind of join the category. And so we're excited to showcase what we've got here in the Northwest with the Outpost range. Garyana is an amazing species of oak. We're starting to see others use it. I just saw a headline of a distillery in Ireland has released a Garyana finish whiskey. And then Colere is an amazing opportunity for us to talk about agriculture and all kinds of things that are happening when you look beyond the commodity system of developing and delivering barley and flavors and opportunities that have been overlooked in the favor of yield. So we've got a lot of interesting stories to tell in the rack house. I'm excited to see what Shane, our master blender, is able to kind of pick out and share with you guys.
Matt, are you going to miss it?
Yeah, I will. I mean, there's aspects. There will always be parts of the job. No job is perfect. There'll always be parts of the job that I won't miss. But the soul of it, the kernel of Westland and the kind of entrepreneurial spirit of it, I will miss. I don't regret the decision to take the break. I know it's the right thing for me in this moment in time, and again, I'm really thankful for the ability to do that. But again, I'm thrilled to see, just to sit now as a spectator on the sidelines and watch what the team's going to do, because I know they're going to do great.
What do you think the future might hold for you? Will it be another distillery?
Genuinely, Mark, I don't know. I've intentionally given myself the space to continue with Westland until I could get to a point and then leave and then give myself the space to think. And I've been trying not to think too much. I mean, there's always ideas that are bubbling up, but I've been trying not to force myself into a space going forward because I don't know if that's what I really want to do if I give myself the time and space. That being said, Westland, as I've said, is all I've really known. It's defined my entire adult working life. Whiskey is what I really know. I'm still passionate about it. I'm still passionate about flavor. I'm still really passionate about, the work that we're doing in sustainable agriculture, the stuff that we're doing with Colere. So whatever I do going forward, I have these passions and to me, that's really important. That's, if I'm so fortunate as to be able to take the thing that I'm passionate about and what there's an opportunity for out there. And that's, going forward, is that whiskey? Is that something else in the agriculture value add space? I genuinely don't know. But there are things I still love. It's not like I've fallen out of love with whiskey at all. So we'll see.
Let's talk about Colere. The new release is just coming out now. Explain the sustainable agriculture part that went into this, Tyler.
Yeah. So this is this barley variety in particular that is coming out with our latest release is Pilot. It's a European developed variety, but my understanding is that our friends at Skagit Valley Malting and the Bread Lab at WSU identified it as being kind of unique in having traits that were well adapted to the Skagit Valley. Our malting partners really loved it. They found a great yield off of it and love the flavor profile. So they now are the kind of exclusive providers of that grain, which is an interesting thing. And it's something that highlights why we like this program, because you're looking at varieties that are adapted to specific regions rather than trying to find a one size fits all barley variety that, may not yield as well, but certainly easy to do in a plug and play style. And it's another opportunity for us to still tell a story about the flavor in the region of the Skagit Valley. And this is another great stepping stone in that story to tell.
And you just released Solemn earlier this year, or several months ago, with the first North American peat whiskey.
This is a super exciting opportunity for us to share the flavors of this local bog. As you can imagine, there's going to be varying fauna that fall into any of these bogs around the world, and this one in particular has a lot less of the kind of mossy elements that you would find in Scotland. And so when you combust that and you burn that, you get a lot of different elements. More of a nice leathery, earthy smoke is what we're finding out of it than that kind of intense iodine burning hospital element. There's a lot of interesting botanicals like Labrador tea. It's surrounded, this bog, with giant cedars and Douglas fir, and all of those elements are falling into this and creating a really wonderful product that we're having a great time discovering what flavor is really there and what the potential is. So it's a new release for us and one we're really excited to share.
Matt, can we see you coming back to the distillery to visit at some point, or are you going to stay away completely?
Well, I hope they don't lock me out. I mean, I guess they have to lock me out technically if I'm not working here anymore. But no, of course, it's again, this team that I love so much and I value so much, the ability to come back, especially on big release days when a new Gariana comes out or new Colere or new Solemn, whatever the excuse can be to come back and celebrate with them and celebrate their achievements. I'll be popping in from time to time, of course.
You didn't do an April Fool's release this year.
No, it would probably be the timing of me announcing that I was leaving, and then an April Fool's. Was that going to be too confusing for people? Maybe, I don't know. I've really enjoyed the April Fool's things over the years, so I don't know. Maybe that's in my future.
What else are you going to miss about the place?
Well, besides the people, and the passion, I think, and it's in really small ways, the way that people, bring their passion about a certain subject that's not even about whiskey. Maybe it's about hospitality. Maybe it's about branding or marketing, all of those little things that add to the Westland whole. I'm really going to miss that, and the people that drive those things. There's always a sense of adventure that I'm going to miss. But that's going to be quickly replaced by kind of a different sense of adventure. And I think that's, for me, going forward, just on a personal level, of not knowing where I'm going, is kind of fun, in many ways. And, so I'm looking forward to that. So I think that'll be replaced. But I mean, for the most part, it's the people and the time that we've spent together, the hard, times, the days when things are really tough to figure out, the celebratory days, that's what it's all about. That's what whiskey's all about, right? Is kind of celebrating amazing things with people together. So, so I'll miss that.
Thanks to Matt Hofmann and Tyler Pederson for spending some time with us this week, and we wish Matt the best of luck in whatever he decides to do in the future. That's WhiskyCast In-Depth, brought to you by Mortlach, whiskey's best-kept secret. Hidden away for decades in some of the world's most famous Scotch whiskies, comes a single malt inspired by an original for a fortunate few. Discover the entire Mortlach lineup at malts.com. Let's start the What I'm Tasting This Week department with the third edition of Westland's Colere American single malt. It's made with heirloom barley from the Skagit Valley and bottled at 50% ABV. The nose is malty and aromatic with a slightly dusty character and touches of stone fruits, honey, and vanilla. The taste has notes of barley sugar, subtle spices, apricots, nectarines, honey, and the spices start to build up leading into the long finish with touches of cinnamon and black pepper. I'm scoring Westland's Colere 3rd edition a 93. One of the new entries into the American single malt category comes from the James B. Beam Distilling Company. Clermont Steep is a 5-year-old single malt bottled at 47% ABV. The nose is malty with touches of red apples, peaches, and honey. The taste has barley sugar, cinnamon, clove, honey, red apples, and peaches in a nice balance, while the finish is long and malty with lingering spices. I'm scoring Beam's Clermont Steep a 92. Westward Whiskey is just down Interstate 5, a couple of hours from Seattle and Portland, Oregon, and the team there tried something different with their latest Westward Club release. 2 Malts Rye comes from a mash bill of 88% malted barley and 12% malted rye. It's bottled at 45% ABV, and the nose has touches of citrus with tangerines and nectarines, along with a hint of roasted nuts. The taste has baking spices, a hint of green apples, and honey, while the finish has lingering spices with hints of coconut and citrus fruits. I'm scoring Westward Whiskey's 2 Malts Rye a 92. And finally, let's look at the 18-year-old Jacob's Pardon Whiskey. It's an 18-year-old American light whiskey blended by longtime spirits writer F. Paul Packolt and bottled by Palm Bay International. It's a whopper at 71.35% ABV, and the nose has touches of caramel candy, baking spices, black cherries, and a hint of pipe tobacco. The taste is mouth-puckering and dry with cloves, cinnamon, and hints of caramel, black cherries, and pipe tobacco. Adding some water is recommended with this one. It opens up dried flowers on the nose, rounds out the palate, and delays the spices until the finish, which is long and dry. I'm scoring the 18-year-old Jacob's Pardon Whiskey a 91. I'll be adding these tasting notes to our searchable list of more than 3,500 different whiskeys from around the world. Check it out this week at WhiskyCast.com.
Gabriel here, and I have 3 things to mention, so just hang with me a moment. First, the 2023 U.S. Open is coming up, and it's being contested at the Los Angeles Country Club. Second, Dewar's is the official Scotch whiskey of the 123rd U.S. Open. Third, and most important, Every year we are the official Scotch whiskey of the U.S. Open. We release a special 19-year-old Champions edition to commemorate the event. This year takes things up a notch. To honor the championship's host state of California, this year's Dewar's 19-year-old Champions edition is double-aged, then finished in Napa Valley red wine casks from Northern California vineyards. I've tried it, and this whiskey is fantastic. You should try it too. Please drink responsibly. Copyright 2023, Dewar's Blended Scotch Whiskey, 43% alcohol by volume.
Let's open up the WhiskyCast community app now for a look at some of the discussion this week. Our community segment is brought to you by Waterford Whiskey. Rick at the Whiskey Zone asked this question following our last episode. I just got done listening to last week's podcast and your explanation of the tough restrictions Missouri puts on its bourbon makers. I was wondering if you know how many distillers in the state actually meet the requirements and are able to use the term Missouri bourbon. Well, Rick, I have to admit I don't have the exact number, but I can't imagine that there are more than a handful with whiskey in bottles right now. I'll try to find out this week. R. McCartan had this question. Just wanted to see everyone's thoughts on the following question. If I wanted to start a distillery or start making whiskey, what would be the first steps I should take? Well, my simple advice is to make sure you have a lot of money that you can invest for a long period of time if you want to start a distillery. You can save money by bottling other distilleries' whiskey, but keep in mind that cask prices are going up exponentially because of demand from investors, and that is hurting a lot of independent bottlers. Here's some advice from our friend Ian Buxton. Find a dark room, wrap a wet towel around your head, and stay there until you forget about it. We'll hear more from Ian on next week's episode, by the way. And if you have something you'd like to share with whiskey lovers around the world, download the free WhiskyCast community app from the Apple or Google app stores and join the fun. You can always get in touch with us on social media, too. Look for WhiskyCast on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Our email address is comments@whiskycast.com. Our community segment is presented by Waterford Whiskey, where they explore the frontiers of natural flavor one farm at a time to create unique Irish whiskeys. Visit them on the web at waterfordwhiskey.com. Let's close out the show now with Behind the Label, our look at the history and science that make whiskey unique. There's often a debate over which distillery is the oldest working one in Scotland, but the consensus appears to be that Glenturret holds that title. The Perthshire distillery traces its history back to illicit smugglers who set up the Hosh distillery in 1775. 100 years later, the distillery took on its current name. According to the Malt Whiskey Yearbook, the distillery was idle from 1921 until 1959. But keep in mind, a lot of Scotch whiskey distilleries were shut down for years during their lifetimes. Glenturret was also one of the earliest distilleries to open a visitors' center in 1981. It was home to the famous grouse experience from 2002 until 2019, when the current owners, Lalique Group and entrepreneur Hans-Jörg Wyss, bought the distillery. They've revamped the visitors' center as part of distillery improvements and even earned a Michelin star for the distillery's restaurant. That's another first for Scottish distilleries, or distilleries anywhere. If you have something you'd like us to look at on an upcoming episode, just email us at comments@whiskycast.com or find me on social media. That's all for this edition of WhiskyCast. You'll find links for the stories in this episode in our show notes at whiskycast.com. That's also where you'll find the latest whiskey news, my tasting notes, the calendar of events, the whiskey photo of the week, and, of course, a complete archive of past episodes going all the way back to 2005. Get in touch with us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at WhiskyCast, or you can use the new WhiskyCast community app. Download it today from the Apple and Google app stores. Our email address is comments@whiskycast.com.
And now, a message from Robin Redbreast.
Small batch. How would you describe it? It's like an Irishman's understanding of baseball. Extremely limited.
Proud sponsor of WhiskyCast. Redbreast. Pass it on.
The 2023 limited edition Dewar's 19-Year-Old Champions Edition is a fitting tribute to the 123rd U.S. Open. Find it if you can, share it if you do, and enjoy it like a champion.
WhiskyCast is a production of Cask Strength Media, copyright 2023, and comes to you from the charming, yet regrettably dry town of Haddonfield, New Jersey. I'm Mark Gillespie, reminding you that when you drink, please drink responsibly. Thanks for listening.